All right. Well, thanks again for joining us for yet another edition of Spincast. Joining us today from Indiana, we have Katie Harry. Katie is the president of the Esports Club for Purdue University, Fort Wayne. So first off, thank you so much for joining us. I sincerely do appreciate your time, Katie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am hanging in there, hanging in there. I think we all are to a degree, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about who you are, where you started with esports, how you got to be where you are today, and we'll take it from there.
Got it. Well, I'm Katie. I am originally from California. I have been playing games probably my entire life. I really grew a love for it. There were other girls playing, Barbies and stuff as kids, and I was indoors playing with like my GameCube and playing Super Smash and stuff with my brothers, and just grew up loving video games. And so when I got to college, I knew that I wanted to continue with that and like share that passion with like other people. And so growing up in California, there was like a really big scene for it. And when I moved here to Indiana, there wasn't as big of a scene here, and at my college, especially at Purdue Fort Wayne, and they had a club, and the president was graduating, and so the club was just going to fail if I didn't take it over. And so, or somebody, nobody wanted it really. And so I just took it under my belt, and right now we're just a League of Legends club. We used to branch out into more things. We kind of just focused on the league portion for right now. So I'm a League of Legends player.
Awesome.
But we have people from every major. I mean, people often ask me, I'm in esports coordination stuff, and like, oh, what do you major in? And I'm like, psychology. And they're super confused. They're like, oh, like that's not what I expected, like computer science or something, But we just kind of took this club and let it grow, really.
Awesome. Yeah, that's something you said earlier, that you came from California and that it was a little bit bigger there. They're certainly, the West Coast in general, certainly at the forefront of esports in general.
Yeah.
You look at like a UC Irvine and what they built there and how they've
Oh yeah.
kind of certainly grown it, where we're slightly behind a little bit, but that being said, we're certainly growing by leaps and bounds. There's no doubt about it. So that's impressive. Now, you're with League of Legends there. Is that, for you personally, is that a game of choice, or do you prefer a different, just on a personal level? What's your favorite game?
League of Legends, obviously.
Okay.
I've been playing it forever. Right now I'm really enjoying Valorant, which is also from Riot Games.
Yes.
I have never played actually like a shooter game like an FPS before, and so it's been super fun learning, but it's kind of it's meant to be competitive, so I'm kind of just
Yeah,
getting
understood.
destroyed every game, but it's really fun. It's fun.
Cool deal.
Yeah.
Valorant is slowly but surely going to take over. That's certainly an
Yeah.
upcoming game that everybody's into right now.
Yeah.
So talk about a little bit at the university there, obviously when things were a little bit more normal and everyone was able to be in school and kind of do things. In terms of what your club does, is it that you get out together to practice? Is that a daily thing? Is it every once in a while? In terms of competitions, how often does that happen? Talk a little bit about what happens there.
Sure. So we are mostly a social club. We are mostly catering to both the community and our university. So we welcome anyone in the Fort Wayne area to join our club, which is actually, I think, very unique. A lot of people, our universities are, just for their university, but we open it up to anybody. So we actually, since we were growing, we came from nobody wanting to come out to 50 people every week kind of thing. So we have bi-weekly meetings, and like I said, we just kind of meet up, we play games, super casual. We have prizes, we bring snacks, and it's like 6 hours every 2 weeks of just gaming and league. And we do have other days where we play other games and we branch out, but it's mostly just league, and it's super fun.
Yeah.
But we did this year start a competitive team actually that competed in the CSL League and the CLO League, and we were practicing. Let's say we were doing like 1 or 2 scrims, and then like practicing as 5 a few times a week. We wanted to do more, but, you know, as a growing school, it wasn't like something that was through the university, which is actually something that we're working on for next year. We just finished building our esports lab.
Nice.
It opened up like the day before the quarantine happened, so it was a little sad. But it's awesome, and I will never get to use it because I'm graduating, but it's okay. Yeah,
Ouch.
it's
Ouch.
okay. But
Gotcha.
so the teams, you know, they're planning on doing, I just got a phone call today from the university. They're planning on having, you know, certain nights set aside for like scrims, and they're incorporating more games, and it's super exciting. Super exciting.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All under your watch, which is cool. Very cool. You mentioned a couple different things that I love about what's going on at the university level anyway, how you incorporate the community and it's more social and everything else. I think that's a awesome thing to do from the perspective that a lot of parents, I think, look at gamers as, well, they're in their room or they're in the basement or something like that. I think a lot of them would prefer that social setting where they can all get together because they all like it and they can share similarities and certain stories and things like that. And then obviously compete against each other or compete against others online, but together, if that makes sense. That's one. And then secondarily, obviously, being able to build a facility on campus or a lab, as you call it, is critical to kind of invite that atmosphere in general. So talk a little bit about that, what your experience is when you find people just kind of on their own versus socially gathering together to do it as a group.
Well, that's actually the reason why we wanted to incorporate as many people as possible, because of, you know, that idea of like, you know, we're just people sitting in our basement playing video games, being lazy. We I know, like, my officer team, it's very important to me. As I said, I major in psychology. I'm a people person. I'm very social. I know what it feels like, you know, to be excluded and stuff and things. So it's been like a personal mission of mine as, you know, like an officer, to like make sure, you know, like while we're having these meetings, you know, if someone's sitting on their own, you know, they came out to, you know, go to this event. So we make sure that we walk around, talk to every person, and try to like incorporate them into the group more, because I think that going to these meetings, you're getting a lot more than just, you know, sitting at home and playing the games, which is just as fun. I mean, I sit at home and play my games too, but like going to these meetings, it's a reason to get out. It's a reason to socialize, make friends. That what I tell my university is like, there's this community of people on campus that normally would not come out to these school events and wouldn't go to you know, these big sports things, or we have like homecoming, because it's just not their scene. And so we're reaching out to an audience that otherwise wouldn't have been, you know, reached out to unless we had these things going around.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that's one of the critical missions with esports programs in general, is with inclusivity and diversity, trying to make sure we can reach that student that typically may not go out of their way to join a specific club or a specific sport, et cetera. But for some reason, gaming or esports engages them, and it gets them to come out of him or her out of her shell to kind of, hey, let me try this because I'm already interested in it. And there's other people similar to me. So I like that. And then talking along those same lines, I mentioned off camera with you a little bit before, I have a daughter, 8th grade, and I love interviewing women that are in, whether the coaching side of things, esports side of things, anything in general, because when she views it, it kind of gives her an example of someone out there that's, hey, that's something I can do. And she can relate. Obviously, it's a lot more relatable. But talk about, as a woman being in esports, that's not very common. So what are some of the challenges you face on a day-to-day basis that we can be a little bit more aware of?
Yeah. I would say that I actually have had not too hard of a time doing this. I know that like sometimes it's harder gaining the respect of, you know, certain people, knowing that like, oh, I'm the person in charge, not my vice president who's a male, you know, or something like that. I know that a lot of people don't expect, you know, when I go in for meetings or something, they're just like, oh, hi. And so I know that it's a lot harder in the actual video game aspect. I know that I've had to fill in for, you know, some practices and games for my collegiate team. And, you know, there's downsides to that, and it's difficult. You know, people are like, oh, you can't know what you're doing, you can't know it, like what this video game's about, you're female, like why? But
Sure.
you know, it's just one of those things that you keep going, you prove them wrong, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. If you're good at something, male, female doesn't really matter. Obviously, if you're
Right,
good at it, you're good at it. Period. And I think
right.
being able to hide behind a screen, sometimes that bravado comes out to
Yeah,
really where it shouldn't be. So,
yeah.
but kudos to you to obviously take control of this program. And as you mentioned already, you've got this going in a number of different directions that are really, really cool. So certainly, I'm sure the community appreciates that. As you, unfortunately, are going to graduate, or fortunately for you, you're going to graduate this year, but from the program perspective, what
Yeah.
would you like to see when you come back and visit, let's say 3, 4, 5 years down the road? What would you like to see there?
I'm hoping that they go in, you know, into the athletics and make it like an actual, you know, competitive team rather just a student-led competitive team. I'd like to see them, you know, recruit more players to our school because of that. You know, we don't have a huge player base, just because of our location personally.
Right.
I think, but I'd love to see that, you know, esports lab flourish, and I want to see them incorporate more games. I wanted to reach out and explore more avenues in the gaming community, and play more games that I don't personally play. I wanted to learn more about that, but I just didn't have enough time. I was president for about 2 years, so um, we just really focused on the league. But
Mhm.
I'd love to see them continue and grow, really, and hopefully,
Yeah.
you know, just make it the best it can be, because it's not that yet, you know.
hmm
And,
I understood. And I think a lot of campuses are in that similar position where they're just trying to get a feel for what is this, first off, right?
yeah,
Especially when you deal with administration. What is this? How can it help us? And how can it engage our student body as well? How can it be a win-win, if you will? So I think it'll figure itself out. I hope so anyway. I know
me too.
there's a number of schools that are out there and really pushing hard for it, and some that are kind of just waiting on the wings and kind of waiting and seeing. So at least you guys are involved in it to some capacity at this point, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I'm pretty
now
proud.
you, yeah, no doubt. Now you mentioned you're a psychology major. It's funny because I've interviewed a ton of different collegiate supporters in the esports scene, whether they're the president of the club or part of the club, et cetera, you name it. And they
Yeah,
all do come from a different walk of life in terms of what their
yeah.
majors are. I think I interviewed someone actually the other day that's a chemistry major, and I'm like,
Wow.
that's not esports at all.
No.
Um, so what do you want to do once you do graduate? Do you have a particular path that attracts you, job
Um,
wise?
yeah, actually, which is funny because everyone keeps asking me that right now, you know, as school's ending, you know, this week, next week-ish. They're like, oh, what are you doing? And my plan is actually to continue to go into esports. I want to do similar to what I'm doing right now. I want to do this full time because,
Mhm.
you know, this was my full-time job really for 2 years. We host a huge LAN every year, and it got canceled this year, unfortunately. But um,
Understood.
it was
Understood.
so, yeah, and it was so much fun every year, spending the whole year collaborating and making this huge event, like one of the biggest I think in the Midwest. Like
Wow.
it's so much fun, and so I found my passion through like that, doing event planning, kind of esports related stuff. So that's ultimately what I'm trying to get into. Um, just anything esports really. Most
Understood.
likely management coordination kind of stuff.
Understood. Understood. We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, where that's for my audience, middle school, high school age kids. Hopefully they understand, hey, you have a passion for something, trying to get a career path in it would be pretty
Yeah.
cool. Waking up to be
Oh.
able to do something you want to do each and every single day. Not everybody's
Yeah.
fortunate enough to do that. So that would be cool to plan it out. So
Yeah.
cool deal. Well, Katie, we're up on time. I sincerely appreciate you coming on. I know we wanted to connect. We had a couple of mutual friends in this industry, which is kind of neat. We
Yeah.
wish you the very best. Good luck with graduation. Hopefully something does pop in there that is something that you want to do in that esports world. I think you'll make it a better place in general if you stay in it. So I sincerely
Thank you.
appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and stay safe out there, okay?
Thank you so much.